Okay, so fighting peacefully. The armor of God is designed to fight battles against the rulers, the authorities, the principalities, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This is the scope for fighting with the armor of God, including the shoes of peace. This is to help you fight not against people, but against ruling authoritative concepts that people unconsciously use to base their arguments on. The reason this is important is that it helps you fight the problem and not the person. Real quick, for those of you who were not here and those who will eventually be watching this, this is specifically on the concept of the shoes of peace from the armor of God that I spoke about earlier. I am a medieval combatant, and we have a saying in sword fighting is that sword fighting is 90% footwork and 10% blade work, which means you aren't fighting. If you in the armor of God, you're supposed to fight peacefully. You're not supposed to get peace afterward. You got to be grounded in peace. So that's where a lot of this is coming from. So you've heard the phrases, pick your battles, mountain out of a molehill, a hill you're willing to die on. I have a new phrase for you instead. You don't fight for peace, you fight with peace. To explain what that means, what it means to fight peacefully, I have to break down the phrase itself. Fighting here is not one of physical or verbal threats. It's not an end justified by means. It is not a wild discourse of violent aggression. You can certainly be aggressive, but by very few standards can you be violent. That serves against the purpose here. Fighting in this way is to take a stand, to challenge, and to defend the cause of righteousness. Peace is defined differently for each person, so I need to address that before I state what I believe peace really encapsulates. Most people would say that peace is a feeling of calm, of tranquility, and that there's harmony and no conflict. This, I'm honestly glad to say, is completely wrong. If this was the case, then one can never fight peacefully, because when there is a fight, there's conflict. What I understand peace to really be, which even ties into this previous definition, is the understanding that all is right with the world. Nothing is out of place and everything good is fulfilled. Emphasizing security, be God of peace. The interplay here between fighting and peace is that you have to challenge injustice and stand for what you believe in. At the same time, you cannot fuel the imbalance by resorting to measures that escalate it further. You have to conduct yourself in such a way that keeps the world in focus and in place. If you ever have to reorient the world after your conflict, you are doing it wrong. You are not fighting so that there can be peace later. You bring peace into the fight before the conflict is resolved. So what does this look like? Some tricks for fighting peacefully would be to gauge the anger of both parties. Much like in tactics, you're welcome, Hannah. If someone gets angry, you lose. The peace has been shattered if someone gets angry, either you or the other party. Another trick is to listen. Many will tell you to listen more than you talk. While this may help in many cases, I would argue that this is not always the case, especially because you are rising to meet a challenge. Peacefulness and passivity must not be confused. Instead, remember that you are defending righteous. Have you ever heard that a great defense is a good offense? Well, that is also the case here. Just remember that you don't get violent, but you can use some aggression. Think more so like counterattacks, where the opposing party says something and you challenge it. Let them speak, but keep the ball in their court. However, do not, and I repeat, do not mudsling at them, which means like calling them names or trying to get at them, their character, their personality. No, don't do that. You're challenging the problem, not the person. You're supposed to have a civil discourse that reveals their wrongdoings without even making more things out of place. By doing so, you deny the peace. By doing so, you become part of the problem, and you are no longer fighting peacefully, you're just fighting. Arguably, the most important advice I have for you is this. If you do not know enough about something, at any point, don't try to challenge them. You simply do not have the means to, and it can actually end up doing more harm than good. Instead, go and learn about it, and perhaps even from them, so that the next time it comes up, you can be ready. It can be hard to know all the situations in which you can fight peacefully, especially because it's very multifaceted and there's a lot that goes into it. And I simply don't have enough time to explain all the ins and outs and all the different situations and exceptions. So here is a useful acronym to help you gauge when. It's NAP, N-A-P. So when should you fight peacefully? When it's necessary, when you are aware, and when you are prepared. Are you needed to fight? Are they leading others astray, or is anyone else challenging the injustice? Are you aware of the underlying problem? Are you able to fight the injustice instead of attacking the person? And are you prepared to engage? Is your mindset and knowledge sufficient to keep you in the fight? It can be hard to know all the ins and outs of the specifics of fighting peacefully. So here's another useful acronym to help you get a general idea. CAR, C-A-R. I know, I'm very imaginative with these. So how do I know if I'm fighting peacefully? Well, your conduct, if you're assisting, and the results after which. So are you conducting yourself properly? Are you healing a disruption, or are you disrupting what is good? Are you assisting? Are you actually contributing something useful, or are you fighting for the sake of fighting? What are the results? Did the conversation stay intact because you handled yourself well, or did it all fall apart because of something you did? If you answer no to any of these questions, you are not fighting peacefully. And I will fold away my little pulpit now.